Hello and welcome back to Bookworm. Have you ever noticed how the same kinds of arguments keep repeating in your life, even with different people? In Games People Play, Eric Berne explains that many of our conflicts aren't random, they're unconscious psychological scripts. We shift between parent, adult, and child roles without realizing it, and those roles create predictable patterns. Stay with me, like the video, subscribe to Bookworm, and let's go deeper into the hidden games shaping your relationships.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a book that absolutely changed the way we understand human interaction. It's called Games People Play by Dr. Eric Berne, and it gives us this incredible lens to see what's really going on when we talk to each other. You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You're having a perfectly normal conversation, and then suddenly it just goes completely off the rails. Or you find yourself stuck in that same frustrating loop with someone, and you walk away feeling totally confused and drained. Well, what if I told you there's a kind of hidden script we're all following, a set of rules we don't even know we're playing by? So, in this explainer, we're going to unpack the core ideas of what Dr. Berne called transactional analysis. We're going to start by meeting the three different people living inside each of us. Then, we'll see how they talk to each other and what happens when they don't get along. You'll find that these arguments follow these surprisingly predictable patterns he called games. And most importantly, we'll figure out how we can spot these games and choose to step outside of them to have real, genuine connections. Okay, first things first, let's set the stage. This whole theory is called transactional analysis, or TA for short. Now, it became super popular, but don't mistake it for just some pop psychology fad. At its heart, it's a really serious, powerful way to look at our behavior. It gives us a practical map for decoding what's really being said under the surface in any conversation. All right, now this is the absolute foundation of everything in transactional analysis. Seriously, if you get this, you get the whole theory. Bernie's big idea is that at any given moment, every single one of us is operating from one of three distinct modes of being, or ego states. You can think of them as three different hats we wear, or three different people inside us, each with its own way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. This is the key. So what exactly is an ego state? Well, Berne was super clear that this isn't some fuzzy, abstract concept. An ego state is a real thing you can actually see and hear. It's a whole package of feelings, thoughts, and behaviors that are all tied together. You can see it in someone's posture, you can hear it in their tone of voice, that critical finger-wagging tone versus a curious, open-minded one. Those are different ego states right there in action. We all have these three main ones. Let's break down the first two. First, you've got the parent ego state. Think of this as a giant internal recording of all the rules, attitudes, and behaviors you absorbed from your parents and other authority figures. It's the taught way of life. When you hear that critical voice in your head saying you should or you must, that's your parent talking. On the flip side, you have the child ego state. This is the felt concept of life. It's a replay of your childhood, all the spontaneous joy, the creativity, the fun, but also the fears, the whining, the rebellion, and the ways you learn to adapt. And then, right in the middle, we have the adult. This is the thought concept of life. The adult is our rational, logical, here and now self. It's like a computer. It just gathers data, analyzes the facts, and makes objective decisions without all the emotional baggage from the child or the automatic judgments from the parent. Now, the goal isn't to be the adult all the time. A healthy person knows how to shift between all three, with the adult kind of acting as the CEO, deciding which state is the best one for the situation. Okay, so we've met our three inner people, the parent, the adult, and the child. Now let's see what happens when they actually start talking to each other. Berne called the most basic unit of any social interaction a transaction. It's a really simple, elegant idea. A transaction just has two parts. I do or say something, that's the transactional stimulus, and then you respond. That's the transactional response. The real power of TA comes when you start to figure out which ego state sent the message and which one sent the message back. That's when you start to see the hidden patterns. Now, take a look at this. This is what Berne calls a complementary transaction. This is smooth sailing. It's when the response is the one you expect, and it comes from the ego state you were talking to. So my adult asks your adult, "Hey, what time is it?" Your adult answers, "It's 3 o'clock." See how the lines in the diagram are parallel? As long as the lines stay parallel, the conversation can just keep going, no problem. It's clean, effective communication. But this is where the trouble starts. This is a crossed transaction, and it's the source of pretty much every argument you've ever had. It happens when you get an unexpected response from a different ego state. So imagine that same adult question, do you know where my keys are? But instead of an adult answer, you get a response from their defensive child, aimed at your parent. Like, why do you always blame me for everything? Boom, the lines are crossed. The conversation about the keys is dead, and a totally new and usually pointless fight has just started. Now, what happens when these patterns, especially the ones with hidden meanings, start repeating themselves over and over again? When you have a series of transactions that seems to follow a script toward a predictable negative ending, well, you've moved beyond just a simple cross-transaction. You've entered what Berne famously called a psychological game. This is so important. A game is, at its core, dishonest, even though we're usually not conscious that we're playing it. There are always two levels going on. You have the social level, the words everyone is saying, which seem perfectly fine, and then you have the psychological level, what's really going on underneath. And every single game is played to get to a specific, predictable emotional payoff, a familiar, often bad feeling that confirms something deep inside us. So let's look at the most classic game of them all, one you have definitely seen before. It's called Why Don't You Yes But. It always kicks off with someone presenting a problem. On the surface, it sounds like an adult-to-adult request for advice. And here's the pattern. It's always the same. People, wanting to be helpful, jump in with suggestions from their nurturing parent state. Why don't you guys hire a professional? And the first person says, yes, but we can't afford it. Okay, well, why don't you take a class together? Yes, but he doesn't have the time. For every single solution, there's a yes, but, until everyone just gets frustrated, gives up, and goes quiet. And in that moment, the person who started it has won. But what did they win, really? The goal on the surface was to solve the problem, but that never happened. The real hidden goal, the psychological payoff, was for their child ego state to frustrate all of the parental advice givers. The payoff is that grim, familiar feeling of satisfaction that says, see, my problems are just too difficult for anyone to understand. Or it confirms a childhood belief that parents never really help anyway. It's a negative feeling, but it's a comfortable and familiar one. So why on earth would we do this? Why would we get into these patterns that just make everyone feel bad? Well, according to Berne, games aren't just random. They actually serve some really powerful, hidden functions in our lives. Okay, so for one, games are a way to get strokes, which is Berne's word for any kind of attention. And listen, for a child state that's starving for recognition, even negative attention is better than no attention at all. Games also give us a predictable way to fill our time and interact with people, especially when we're scared of real, spontaneous intimacy. But maybe the biggest reason is that games help us confirm our deepest beliefs about ourselves, other people, and the world. They keep our personal story going. And that leads to this huge idea Berne had, the life script. He believed that when we're very young, we make these big, unconscious decisions about who we are and how our life is going to go. Are we going to be a winner, a loser, a victim? This becomes our unconscious life plan. And our favorite games? They're like the repeating scenes we act out every single day to make sure our life's movie stays on track and heads toward its pre-written ending. Now, I know this can all sound a little bit deterministic, like we're just puppets acting out a script we wrote as kids. But here's the good news, and it's the entire point of transactional analysis. We are not doomed to repeat these patterns forever. The first, most powerful step to changing the game is just awareness. It's seeing it for what it is. Berne put games on one side, and on the other side, he put intimacy, which he thought was the absolute best kind of human experience. Intimacy is the opposite of a game. It's honest, it's spontaneous, it's happening right here, right now, without a script. It's a genuine connection, often coming from that free, natural child state with the full permission and protection of the adult. It's vulnerable and real, all the things games are designed to protect us from. So, this is the big takeaway. This is what you can actually do. Once you learn to spot the parent, adult, and child in yourself and others, and once you can recognize the opening line of a game you tend to play, you suddenly have the power to choose. So next time someone starts a conversation that feels like, why don't you? Yes, but. Instead of letting your parent jump in with advice, your adult can see the pattern, and you can choose to say something different, like, wow, that sounds really difficult. What are your thoughts on how to handle it? That simple shift stops the game in its tracks and opens the door for a real conversation. Learning to see these patterns in your life is like being handed a map to your own social world. It gives you the power to navigate your relationships with so much more freedom and choice. So, the real question I want to leave you with is this: what games are you playing without even realizing it? And now that you might be starting to see them, what new choice are you going to make?
If this book made you rethink your interactions, that's powerful. Games People Play shows that many conflicts aren't about the problem itself, but about the roles we step into automatically. When you become aware of your parent, adult, or child state, you interrupt the script. Real intimacy begins when games stop. If one pattern felt familiar, share it below. And if you want more deep psychological breakdowns, like the video and subscribe to Bookworm for the next exploration.